In here, we will be discussing about the biogeography and creation. Creation is a concept that God has produced, or God has created everything, every living organism on the earth as it is today, and there is no change. But there was compelling evidence that compelled the scientists to think around the idea, and they gave rise to different sciences, and they were able to devise a new theories about how life was created on the surface of earth. So biogeography began in the mid 18th century, and at that time most people accepted the statements in Bible as the literal truth, that the earth and all living things we can see today had been created in a single series of events. So life was created once, and it was there were some events. For example, there was a flood in the Noah's time, right? So the prophet Noah's time, there was a flood, and the life was again dispersed across the planet again. So these were the ideas that were prevalent at that time, and many a scientists were convinced by these ideas. And there was a scientist named there were some realization among the scientists that both the living world and the planet that it inhabit are continually changing. So there is a sense of realization among the scientists that both the planets and the life, they are changing. And how does this change is taking place? That was driven by two great processes. One is the biological process of evolution, and the geological process of plate tectonics. Both of these ideas we will be discussing in detail. So in 1735, the Carolus Linnaeus, a Swedish naturalist, started to name and describe the animal and plants. He was a Christian, and he believed in the Bible's story. He assumed the organism as unchanging species which are created by God. But he soon found out that opposite was true. So the evidence that he found due to the his immense knowledge of the plants and animal, he assumed that this is not true because the species are changing. The species change with time, and he based his thinking on the fossil record and the species that are found together. And there was idea of Noah's Ark, the Hazrat Noah alayhi salam ki kashti. The Noah's Ark inhabited all the living species of the planet at the time of the flooding, according to the Bible. And after the flood receded, all the species came out on the land, and they inhabited the land again. So how the disparity of the evidence that Linnaeus had in his mind, how he coincided that disparity in his thinking, in his scientific thinking. So he said that, okay, I can find the different species in the different areas and in the different times. How can I find those? Because the as the flood water receded, the different species occupied the different areas. The different environments to be found at different altitude have been colonized in turn by different animal and plant from the ark as the flood water receded progressively. So this is how he conveyed his ideas, keeping in view his religious thinkings as well. And then there come the French naturalist, which was Georges Buffon, the first person to realize that similar environment found in different regions of the world contain different grouping of organisms. Even though the tropical rainforest of Nigeria, of Brazil, and of Bangladesh, they are having the same tropical environment, but they have different set of organisms in them. And that is true even today, and that's why we call that as a law, and that is called Buffon's law. So he noted many of the mammals of North America, such as bear, deer, squirrel, hedgehogs, moles, they were found in the Eurasia. Eurasia, Europe, and Asia combined are called Eurasia. And he said that all of these animals, they traveled via Alaska when the environments were warmer, when the climates were warmer, and they inhabited the North America as well. Most of the mammals of South America are quite different from those of Africa, even though they live in the similar tropical environment. So, this was the basis of his thinking. And accepting that all were originally created in the old world, he said that even though the climates are the same, but the old world means the continent of Africa, and new world means the continent of South America. The organisms that are living there, they are quite different from each other. And Buffon strongly felt that one has to be guided by study of facts, and this conviction drove him to accept that geography, climate, and even the nature of species were not fixed but changeable. So, why the George Buffon is so much against the religious thinking? We have to see that the George Buffon had his time after the French Revolution, which was against the clergy and all the aristocracy as well. So the already established ideas, they were much more, the French were much more able to vocalize those ideas as compared to the conservative societies just like the Britain. So he said that the religious thinking, it is not a good way to think, but the facts, the study of facts will get to you to the actual knowledge. And his observation on the differences between the mammals and two regions were extended to land birds, reptile, insects, and plants. So ultimately, the creationist beliefs were gradually decimated by the work of scientists like George Buffon, and now we have much more understanding that how organisms diversified, how organisms lived from one, and how they migrated from one place to another, and how diverged themselves into different areas, as compared to the unchanging view of creation, in which we say that all the organisms were created only once in one series of events, and they are not changing anymore.